Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 382. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have back with us the award-winning children's book authoress, Sarah Woodard.
Hi, Barney.
Sarah.
Thanks for having me back.
You're welcome. So this is your third time
Yes.
on the show, and so you officially got the moniker friend of the show. And anybody who's been on the show for 3 times gets friend of the show status. So congratulations, Sarah, on that.
Thank you. That's cool.
So I remember before you were talking on your very first episode how you were trying to beat the Richard Scarry number.
Yes.
What was that number again? How many books did he publish?
400. Forget if it was 300 or 400 now, but yeah, some big 100 number, like 300 or 400. Yeah.
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 And so I know, so you were on a couple years ago, so it's been a bit, but once again, I checked out your Amazon page. As of this listing, it says that you have, according to this, you have, did I read that right? 91 unique titles.
Probably, but not all of them are children's books.
Right.
So 70...
But you didn't specify that Richard Scarry, they all had to be children's books. You said you just had to
true. Well, you know what? That's valid. I never thought about that.
Yeah. I'll say 82 titles.
82. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
74 or something like that of them are children's books. Yeah.
Right. You said as of this recording, in less than 2 weeks, you have a book of poetry coming out.
Yes. So September 9th, it's available for pre-order as of now.
Right.
Thanks, Barney. So September 9th is the actual, you can purchase it, or if you pre-order it, it will show up on your device date. But it's called Unity, and so it's actually my fourth book of poetry. Poetry was actually my first thing that I ever wrote, back in 8th grade. That was kind of like my dip your toe in the pond of creative writing. And what I've learned is, what I love about both poetry and children's books is this process of distilling down really complicated stuff into a few words, a few really meaningful, powerful words to convey something that's really confusing and complicated. There's something about that process that I just really love. And so Unity specifically is, I was kind of inspired actually by the horrendous political climate that we're currently existing in, because I was looking at it from an eagle eye perspective, and not so much the individual candidates or the issues or the mudslinging or any crap, because that, to me, that's just too heavy. I know who I'm voting for. I know what I believe is right, and I can only trust that however it works out is the right way for it to work out. And if it's not, have a plan so I can keep myself safe, right? That's all I can do from that standpoint. But from that higher perspective, I was like, you know what this is? This is a battle between, and I say these with no offense to either gender, because they exist within all of us, regardless of how you gender identify. This is a battle between the divine feminine and the male ego. And like I said, we all have both of those within us. Yin, yang, good, bad, black, white. It all exists within all of us. I was like, this is literally that battle being played out on the political stage. This could be, if this was a sci-fi movie, we would be enraptured, because there would be all sorts of lasers and shooting scenes and chases and robots and whatever, right? But it's not. We're literally living this battle in real time. And so I wanted this poetry book, to really celebrate this rise of the divine feminine, because I believe that's what's happening. Is divine feminine's like, okay, now's my time, on a much greater level than just 2 candidates. It, on if you will, the conscious collective, it's like, it's time. And the male ego is like, oh God, we've been suppressing her for so long, and if she rises up, we're in big trouble, right? And so and I wanted to celebrate this. And so the poetry book starts at that place where you're alone and you feel just like life is hopeless and helpless, and through this like searching phase to the phase where you have found this collective group of strong women who rise up together and change the world. And so kind of goes on that journey through the poetry.
I'm curious because you write both children's books and poetry books.
Yeah.
How does one strengthen the other, creatively speaking?
Because they are such similar processes of like distilling down to those simplicity of words. I think to me, they actually go together. I could never do like, well, I say that, and I'm not going to say never because you never say never. If you'd asked me, I would have said, oh, I'll never pick up and move across the country. And I did. So there you go. But if you, I don't think that I could ever do like poetry for kids like Dr. Seuss, because I'm not so much into the rhyming. I'm more about the messaging behind it. But that's not to say that they don't complement each other, because although like that's the broader message of those poems, right, is this whole divine feminine ego masculine battle thing playing out, they're still very so like the kids books and the poems, although like the poetry is not aimed at kids and the books are written for children, they're intended to also be consumed by adults. The topics are similar, the connection to nature and the greater whole is similar, so it's incorporating like similar themes but in different ways, and it's just kind of another way for me to explore all of that with the written word, using this process of finding very few words to go through something that's really complicated.
But so you said, so the creative process is similar, but the end result is, as you say, almost night and day then.
On the surface, I think for people it is, yeah. But I think that anybody who has read my poems and has read more than one of my children's books would be able to go, oh yeah, I see that. Yep. See, she's talking about trees. Oh, and she's talking about trees, and she's talking about trees. She's talking about trees. And I'm talking about like the same theme, but in different ways, in different, I mean, I went to school to be a teacher, and they always said, like, you have to repeat the same thing multiple ways, multiple times before everybody gets it. You can't just say it once, right? And so for me, it's just a continuation of that process of exploring these same themes. Like you had my author website up a minute ago, and on the children's books page, they're broken down by category. And in part, that's just to help my readers, because there's 74 books. And if you're just looking for one on a specific topic, how are you going to do that? But also, you can see that the same themes repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And it's kind of the same thing with the poetry books, but they're just presented differently.
Right. Yeah. And as you said, you got them all separated. For those that want to check it out, and we'll put the link in the show notes as well, it's Sarah Woodard authoress.com. And you have your children's books separated by topic: companion animals, veganism, animal rights, environment, sustainability, wildlife, friendship, LGBTQIA plus, diversity, and others. So, yeah. And yeah, I gotta say too, it's just like, so I'm also curious, talking about your children's books, how's Carlos doing anyway?
So I had to kind of push pause on actively publishing, because it was just getting to be a lot. Like, anybody who has ever self-published anything knows that like the writing is easy, the finding the illustrator is easy, the getting the book completed is easy. The actually putting it out in the world and publishing it is where like there's much swearing and cursing at technology. And I just I got to kind of the end of my backlog queue, and I was like, I just need to push pause. On the one hand, I felt really bad because, Carlos and I have had this working relationship for years.
Right.
But on the other hand, I also know that like I have to take care of me and do what's right for me. And he understood that perfectly fine, but we still stay in touch. He's still actively illustrating. He also is trained as a software engineer, so he's coding. He's been doing he posts some stuff on Facebook. He's been doing some really cool logos and animations. So yeah, if people need that stuff, please find him and have him do your work, because he's still out there doing incredible stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, as you mentioned, so for those that are looking at getting their own children's book published, and you mentioned the fun part is, as you say, writing it and illustrating it and putting it together. What are some of the things to kind of give some children's book authors some insight on the actual publishing piece that you mentioned, which is some of the harder parts?
So, and I would say this applies to any author that's looking to publish a book of any type. So there's first, one of the challenges is there is so much advice and so many opinions, and sorting through all of those, like if it's your first time around, is ridiculous. I'm going to give you mine. Take it for whatever it's worth. I can only tell you that I've written however many books you said, 80 something total, right? So I'm hoping this means I have the voice of experience here, but again, if this doesn't resonate for you, that's okay. But one of the pieces of advice that is super common is people would say, you have to purchase your ISBN number. No, you don't. Please don't waste your money on doing that. If you publish through KDP, which is the Amazon's publishing arm, they will give you an ISBN number for free. And people get nervous because they start to read really quickly and they're like, but if I do that, they control the rights to my book. No, they control your publishing rights, your distribution rights, meaning they can determine what other like retailers can have your book. Generally speaking, they're not that particular. If you click there's a button that says expanded distribution. If you click that, people can still get your book everywhere. It just may take a little longer. Like usually from like release date to it's available in every bookstore everywhere to purchase is like 8 weeks if you do it this way. To me, it's worth it not to spend $150 per ISBN number. And they're free in every other country in the world. Oh, by the way. So welcome to capitalism. So that's my first thing is don't do that. Just do it. Do the free one through KDP. Yes, they will control your distribution rights. Is it that big of a deal? No, because here's the thing. As an independently published author, there is not going to be anybody banging down your door wanting to purchase your book immediately. And if they do, you just direct them to buy it on Amazon, and they do. And it's not a big deal. If you want to be in local book, like indie bookstores and stuff, 99.9% of the time, you're going to have to bring in copies of your book yourself and say, can we do some sort of an agreement? Because they'll take them on consignment, but they're not generally going to order them unless somebody else, like a consumer, walks in their store and says, can you order this for me? But they're not going to order them just because you live near the store. So it's generally like, don't let that frighten you, because that was my biggest takeaway from my first book to my second was don't waste that money. Use that for your illustrations. Use that for food. Use that for vet appointments. Literally anything except paying for a ridiculous amount for a number on the back of your book. That's free in every other country. If you have residency in another country, just publish from there and it's free. Anyway, so that's the first piece. But then the other thing that can be super frustrating, particularly if you are doing the formatting yourself and you're working with an illustrator who's new and is unfamiliar. When you upload it to publish, at least through KDP, I can't speak to how other publishers do it, but you upload the cover as one file and the inside pages as another file. And the software does some magic in the background and says, okay, does this cover actually wrap around these pages correctly? And if not, it spits back some error message with a whole bunch of crazy numbers and math that you as a creative person are probably going to start to just cry because you're like, I don't even know how to fix this. And so they do, however, have tools. You're going to have to search for them because they make them hard to find, but they do have tools where if you know how many pages your book is, and you know if it's color, and you know what, you know the dimensions of the book you want, and this and that, it will actually tell you, okay, your cover needs to be these dimensions. Do that research up front and save yourself a ton of pain and agony because it is super stressful. I had a friend who's also an author. He published it. He actually just published his second cozy mysteries, and actually I should hook you up with him, Barney, because he's a cool guy. But his first one, he didn't know to do this research. Like, he should have asked me, but anyway, he didn't know to do this first, and he got back this error message: your cover is like 0.0025% too small. And he's like, what?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, this is where like the cursing of technology comes in, right? And then if you want to release it as an ebook, then there's a whole other piece of software that has to get involved, and it can become, you almost have to become like your own tech person too, unless you have somebody to do all this for you. So yeah, but just, I encourage everybody to do that research up front, get all that information up front, so that when it comes time, literally you just have all of the files you need, and you can upload them and push schedule release, and it will just happen without as many tears and hair gnashing of teeth.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. Thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. So let's get talking about your newest release then, your Unity.
The poetry book, yeah.
The poetry book. How long did it take you to put this together?
So my process with poetry is a little bit different. Like, well, it's the same and it's different. Like with the children's books, there's always that inspiration, and then I sit down and write, and it kind of comes together around whatever that initial inspiration is. My poetry, like, I will get inspired to just write a poem, and so I just kind of keep like a tickler file of them.
Okay.
And then when I got this idea for Unity and this whole journey from alone to divine feminine group rising, I was like, I wonder what I have that would already go in that. So I pulled out the tickler file and I started just pulling out the ones that would work, and it was like, oh, that's already 50% of a book. Okay. And then I just kind of opened myself up, and I'm like, all right, what else? And I wrote a few more, and then I was like, started to think about the structure, and I came up with that flow that I talked about, and it's kind of 3 different sections. And so I started sorting them into the sections, because they didn't need to be like exactly the same, but I didn't want it to be like, oh, there's like 17 here and like 3 here. It needed to be somewhat balanced.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, so, this section and this section are a little light. Okay. And opened myself up again. And then once I had like what I felt like was a full and complete number to make the book, and it felt like, yeah, there's nothing more I need to say in any of the sections. Then I started organizing it into, okay, which one comes first in this section and what order they should all go in for each section. And at that point it was like, okay. And I did all of that, not even in a Word document. I just did that in like a notes file.
Okay.
And after I did that is when I sat down and was like, okay, well, I know that I want this to be like a similar format to my previous poetry books. So I just pulled out the Google Doc file from one of the old ones and was able to just kind of copy paste over at that point. And then unfortunately, I did not save the sizes of the covers, so I had to go and do the Google, where's the thing for the blah, blah, what cover size. But once I found that, it was easy enough. And then for the cover, I thought about hiring Carlos, because we all know he does amazing work, but I was like, what I want is also really, really simple. And if I can find the right vector file on like Pixabay, I could do this myself in Canva. And I did. I found the perfect thing. You had it up on the screen earlier. It's that silhouette of the woman's head with like the power fist, right? And I was like, yep, that's what I need. And so at that point it became very much simpler. And also because like I've been through this quite a few times at this point. So yeah, so that was just a vector file that I found for free on Pixabay, and then I just played with it in Canva to make the cover.
Like, who'd you say this book of poetry is for?
Personally, I think everybody should read anything they can get their hands on, but I honestly think it's probably mostly going to resonate with anyone, male or female, who is meaning how they gender identify as male or female, who is going through this process of acknowledging that divine feminine in themselves. And so they could be gender identifying as male, but wanting to acknowledge more of their feminine side for whatever reason, right? Maybe they just want to support their wife, right? Like there could be a million reasons. But I think, and then obviously any woman who's kind of so anywhere in that process. And I don't know about other women out there, but I feel like I go back and forth in that process throughout the course of the day. Like I can feel super alone and then hop on Facebook and be like, oh no, there's a bunch of strong women and we're going to crush it. And then I read something else that He Who Shall Not Be Named does. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awful. And then I see like, some powerful, strong female response to it. I'm like, yeah, we rock. Like I vacillate throughout the day. Right. So I don't think I'm alone in that. But yeah, if you feel yourself riding that same roller coaster during the day, yeah, this is good for you.
So Sarah, if people want to learn more about you and your work, where is the best place they could go to?
Oh, definitely my website, which is
Okay.
sarahwoodardauthoress.com.
Any final comments?
When you go to my website, actually, so we kind of talked about my themes are frequently connect back to nature in some way, shape, or form. And so when you go to my website, there is a fun little mini quiz on the homepage that you can take to discover how well you are able to connect with nature yourself and therefore help your children connect to nature. It's right at the top. Yeah, it's right at the top right when you go there. And so I encourage everyone to just start. It literally says start here. So click the start here button and take that little quiz. It's just 3 questions and you'll get enrolled in this great mini course.
Oh, cool.
That will take you from, the reason for the 3 questions is I want to make sure I put you in the right track for wherever you are today to whatever that next stage is. And help you bring your kids along the journey with you. And so with this mini course, it's based on the answers to your questions. You'll get plunked into the correct track for the mini course. And then Valentine Bear, who is actually, I do have a children's book out about Valentine Bear, but he will show up in your email with me to help teach the course. And
that's sweet. How are your stuffies doing? Your stuffy friends?
All the plushie pals are excellent and amazing. Yeah, they have all made the journey back and forth across the country just fine. They have gotten accustomed to packing in boxes, and the collection has grown significantly.
Okay.
Oh my God. When I was in Colorado, my apartment was 760 something square feet. We're not talking a lot of space here, but I managed to shove more plushies neatly and tidily into that space than probably anyone else could have ever imagined. And it grew. And then we were in a hotel for 3 months after I moved back east and felt the need for plushies there too, even though this hotel room was dinky, teeny, tiny.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, there's a lot of them now.
Right.
but I never give any away because I only first of all, I only ever kept the ones that were like sentimentally important, and I only buy ones that have they kind of speak to me in some way, shape, or form that like they need to come home to me. So yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. Yeah, like you say, you got great stuff here. So yeah, definitely folks check out sarahwoodardauthoress.com and you'll see all kinds of good stuff on there, and check out her books also too, Sarah Woodard. And you got links to there as well that you can buy them all on Amazon. Perfect.
Yeah, and there's links to each individual book on my website. So if there's one there that you're like, I must have this, you can just click on it.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Barney. It's always good to chat with you. And I felt really bad because...
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Can I call you later? There we go. All right. I'm going to timestamp that so that way I don't have to.